Dead and Buried is a horror film directed by Gary Sherman, released in 1981.
Yeah, it's set in a small sort of fishing town called Potter's Bluff. There's something weird going on where tourists seem to be, bludgeoned to death or murdered in gruesome ways and disappearing. As the audience, we see that these people suddenly return as sort of residents of this town without seemingly to realise that they were somebody else. And there's a funeral home owner played by Jack Albertson who takes great pride in his work of restoring corpses to their former
glory.
Yeah. So that's a bit weird. We open with a sort of a visiting photographer who's taking pictures of one of the residents, and suddenly she turns on him, and he's surrounded by lots of other residents of the town, and they attack him and set him on fire.
Vicious scene.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's a horror film, but it's also kind of a mystery. I mean, while we know that obviously some of the townsfolk are responsible for this, we don't really know why or what's going on or what the purpose of it is and why they seem to hate outsiders so much. So we're sort of, while we know a little bit more than the sheriff, we're still along for the ride with him, sort of trying to unravel this mystery, because you're not given much information at the start apart from the fact that these people are responsible for this murder.
I really like it. It's a very unique piece of work. It's very strange. But I thought this the first time I watched it, and I couldn't find anything online about this, so I might be the only one who thinks this. Usually the case. But I thought it really reminds me of Twin Peaks for a few reasons. I mean, it's a strange, it's weird for a start. You've got it's a small town with this kind of, obviously it's not a murder or one murder. There's lots of murders going on. There's a bit of supernatural going on. You've got this cop who's so underneath it all, you've got this strange, lots of murders going on. This weird, very creepy town and people, residents of the town. And then, but on the top of it, you've got this strange kind of surreal comedy with the police, and obviously in Twin Peaks you've got the police sheriff, you've got the FBI guy, but then you've also got the town policeman, and who's going round and he's trying to suss out what's going on there, which is similar. You've got that here. You've also got this kind of weird soundtrack with 50s music on, something else that David Lynch used in Twin Peaks. I just found a few similarities to Twin Peaks in Dead and Buried, and I think I found that last time as well. So I don't know if it was, obviously it features things that many films feature, but I wondered whether it may have had some inspiration for David Lynch, and I think this is really good. It's gory as well. There's some quite graphic moments in there.
Yeah,
it's all done really well.
It is. Yeah, it was an early Stan Winston film.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah, Terminator.
He's responsible for so many classic monsters. He created the Predator and so many others. He obviously had a big hand in all the effects in Jurassic Park. Basically, an absolute legend in the sort of the visual effect. But this was quite an early one for him. There's some stuff in that I didn't realise. That I watched. I watched some of the extras and has a little bit. An interview with him. Obviously, this guy at the start who gets burned, they put him in a car to make it look like he's had a car crash, and you see his burnt face, and he's the car's upside down, so he's hanging upside down. That's an animatronic puppet head that because he's still alive.
Right. Yeah,
but it looks quite real, even though sort of half his face is sort of burnt off. It still looks quite realistic.
Yeah.
But it was a puppet, and then he's in hospital and he's basically completely covered in bandages from head to
That's
toe.
not real, is it? That's a puppet.
No, that's
it
a
looks
puppet.
so
I never
effective.
realised.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's just, you could just see his teeth and his eye, and that's it. But, he's quite, the puppet is quite emotive with the eye, because this the woman that he photographs at the start, she comes in as a nurse. This puppet eye really shows terror in its face. No, it was really well done. Until I watched that, I didn't realise. I just thought it was a guy wrapped in bandages. I didn't realise.
But there's another sequence near the end of the film that has a body in it, which you're watching and you're like, God, that's a real. And you're like, oh my! And then something happens and it's like, oh, it's not a real person, because there's no way a real person that could happen to them. I think the effects are really, really well done, and obviously he went on to do so much great work. I think that's what's interesting about this film. I mean, the acting is quite slow at times, and the acting's not. It's not amazing, but all the kind of things within the film. So obviously the effects are great. I think the soundtrack, and I don't mean the music soundtrack, I mean the sound effect, the sound design of the film. There's that moment that's kind of, because you're in this kind of, it's very similar to the town in The Fog, It's that kind of, and there's
Yeah,
a lot
I got
of
a
fog
fog
in
vibe
there. There's a
from it,
fog
yeah,
vibe
yeah.
in there, and of course you've got kind of like clangs of maybe something out in the sea, you know, keeping ships at bay, or like horn. I think it's a horn. This kind of sound in the background you kept hearing. It makes it quite eerie. I thought the sound design's really good on the film. There's lots of clever film techniques in there. So there's a couple of uses of long takes. There's one really clever one when his wife, so the policeman in there, we haven't spoken about yet, but the policeman's character's wife comes into the house, and she comes up the steps, and the camera's like here, tracking along with her, and then she comes through, and then they like put the door. So as the camera goes through where the door should be, just before she opens it, the crew actually put the door in place, and then she opens it and comes through. It's very clever.
Yeah.
And these tiny, tiny little things that you don't really notice when you're watching them, and then you read back about them afterwards, and then you go back and watch it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's how they do it. There's a few things like that going on in there. There's also, so the director apparently, he took out red out of every single scene in the film, so that the only time you ever see red is when someone has been murdered. So blood is the only time you see red on screen.
Apart from at the start when she's wearing a red.
Apart from that, exactly, yeah. So there's lots of, you know, clearly the director understood film, and he was using a lot of film techniques and reference points and things like that to really tell his story. And I think all those things work. I mean, obviously those things work because that's why film is so great. You know, it's kind of getting into our psyche a little bit, and I think that's one reason I really like this film. Yeah. I've only literally just seen it twice though, and you know, but I really enjoy it. So
No, it's a strange little film, but no, it's good. And well, it was originally classified as a video nasty in the UK. I mean, there's an eye-piercing scene. I think that's a large reason why anything eye related. I mean, there's a eye scene in Zombie Flesh Eaters, isn't there?
There is, yeah. Again, oh god,
was a reason why that was a video nasty.
The bit of wood that goes into
yeah.
it's horrible.
But this is like a syringe going into an eye. If you don't like eye stuff.
Which I don't.
No, you might be a bit squeamish about it. The screenplay credits go to Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusay, who before that had written Alien.
Yeah.
Obviously with great success.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't actually come up with the story. You know, I think they basically worked on the script to clean it out and make it filmable. But they are credited with the screenplay. On the DVD, there's an interview with Dan O'Bannon, and he wasn't 100% comfortable with taking the credit. I mean, he had to really fight for the credit for Alien, so he didn't feel comfortable taking the credit away from somebody else. But I think they wanted his name on it, again, to help sell it, because those two guys had such great success with Alien. But, you know, it's not that he didn't do anything on it. He did, help with the script, but I think he felt that he didn't do enough maybe to get that credit. Right, but, you know, the guys who originally came up with the story are credited as well, so, their names are still on there. But I think there was a lot of production issues as well. I think maybe the production company changed hands a few times or something, and as new people came in, they wanted different things from the film. Partway through filming, that it changed hands, and the company wanted something more comedic, I think, and then it changed hands again, and they wanted something more gory, and they had to film extra scenes, and Gary Sherman wasn't particularly happy with it, so I think it had a bit of a troubled production. I think there are scenes where the continuity got messed up a little bit by that. I mean, it's not something that you would notice immediately, but
well, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if that's why I find it a bit jolty at times. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's either had stuff removed or stuff filmed that shouldn't be there, or that shouldn't be there in the director's eyes, and maybe that's why it feels a little bit disjointed at times. There's a little bit of humour there, but not always.
No.
And then it's very, very dark and very graphic, and maybe again that might be why it feels a little bit like Twin Peaks, because Twin Peaks is a kind of a disjointed ride, purposely. Although maybe that's why this one feels a bit like, because it's not on purpose, but it's kind of got this weird, disjointed, surreal kind of feel to it, and that may be an accident. Well, then maybe it's an accident that works. I don't know. Who knows? It's interesting you say that, because I didn't know that, and maybe I understand a bit more.
Yeah. Why it's the way it is a little bit.
Yeah.
The police chief is played by James Farentino. He's quite a solid guy in the role. You know, he's sort of a everyman kind of thing. You know, you're sort of rooting for him to find out what's going on, because he's completely bewildered by these happenings and just wants to get to the bottom of it. But playing his wife, we've got Melody Anderson. An early role for Robert Englund as well.
Oh yeah, great Robert
Freddy
Englund.
Krueger.
Yeah, and he's great next year. He's looking very young. It's only a few years before Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Of course, he looks much older than that, doesn't he? Because he's all
Yeah.
And of course, you mentioned Jack Alverson. This was his final film. He was actually very ill when he made the film, and he spent much of the film, although not on screen, but he spent a lot of the film in a wheelchair.
Right.
He managed to see it. He was dying. He was ill when he was dying as he made the film. I think he turned up to the screening in like a wheelchair with an oxygen mask and everything. He was very, very ill.
Yeah.
But he holds his own in the film, and he's perfect. I mean, a lot of people, he's a huge career behind him. A lot of people were known for, he was in Willy Wonka. He was Grandad in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate and the Charlie Factory. That one.
Some people really love a Charlie Factory.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. Are you being rude? I think in this, he's really creepy. He's got like these glasses that make his eyes look all weird. And you're never quite sure about him. No. And there's something odd.
I mean, that's the thing. A lot of obviously you see a lot of the townsfolk, so you know who, some of them who are in on this, these murders. Other characters like him, and obviously the wife, and like the dispatcher at the police station. Yeah. You're never sure whether who is in on it and who isn't. And there's a doctor as well, and things like that. So, like I said at the start, along with as you're following the story, while you know certain things that the police chief doesn't, you're still sort of finding things out as he does about what exactly is going on.
It's a good film. Yeah. And do you have it on DVD?
Yeah. I've had it for quite a long time. It's the Anchor Bay release from, 2004.
Great, but before you do that...
Oh, yeah?
I'll jump in before it.
Okay.
With something else.
Right.
So in the UK, when Dead and Buried came out in the cinemas, it came out with another film. So if you go way back before commercials, like 45 minutes of commercials you get before films nowadays, in the old days, then you had like newsreels and then like maybe short films, cartoons they used to put on before films. I think as you get closer to the 80s, they ditched the newsreels. But then they started putting kind of either documentaries, sometimes you get documentaries, sometimes you get a short film. Sometimes you got a good short film, sometimes you got a bad short film. But Dead and Buried was released with the Orchard End Murder, which you can pick up. You can get it on the BFI. The BFI released it as part of their Flip Side, which is kind of weird and unknown and lost, strange British films. It's kind of also known as like the programme filler. This was like a long short feature, so it's 50 minutes long. But it's really weird. I won't talk too much about it. It's basically set in Kent, where we are from, and it's about a young woman who she goes off to the countryside with her lover and have a bit of a thing in a field, and then she gets bored of him and kind of goes off wandering around the village, meeting lots of weird folk, and ends up being murdered. And then it's the kind of mystery into why she was murdered. It's kind of based on a real murder that took place in Kent 10 years before the film. And it's just odd. I mean, it's kind of exploitation-esque because there's a lot of like shots of her naked dead body in fields, but it's also filmed quite picturesque, art looking, and it's a really quirky film. So that was released almost as a double bill with Dead and Buried, and also because there was some weird kind of tax break, which meant that if your film was longer than 40 minutes long, you were able to retain some of the profits from the main feature. And I think Dead and Buried did quite well over here, so I think this was able to get quite a lot of money from the profits that film made. Yeah. So this is actually released by the BFI, and it's a really good short set. Some features on there and stuff. You get this one with this, and you had an actual cinema experience at your fingertips.
You could do.
But now you may talk about.
Thanks.
The film.
So this is Anchor Bay release from 2004, which has the uncut edition of the film. I think for a long time, like I said, it was a video nasty, and I think for a long time the eye piercing scene was removed. But it's uncut. Got some extras on there. It's got 3 commentaries. It's also got an interview with Stan Winston, an interview with Robert Englund, and an interview with Dan O'Bannon. So they've all got some interesting tidbits. Some of which I shared during the video. I mean, as far as Blu-rays go, Blu-ray Underground released it about 10 years ago on Blu-ray. There's no Blu-ray in the UK. It is available in other countries as well. I think it has all the same extras. I mean, the picture on this, it's a DVD obviously, but even for a DVD it doesn't look great. But I think even the Blu-ray isn't amazing. I mean, obviously it's a low-budget film, so it's only never going to look, there's only so much they can do with it. I mean, it probably could do with a bit of more restoring and maybe it would look a bit better. But yeah, pick your flavour.
And that was Dead and Buried. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button up there and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. There's some other videos to check out over there. And come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And come back next week for another video.